Welcome to the Dr. Joe Show with Dr. Joe Malone, where we learn about women's health and sexual wellness. This is February 26, 2021, and our guest today is Nicole Lytle. Welcome, Nicole. Can you
Thank you. Thank you.
tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind?
Well, I'm originally from North Carolina. Been in Memphis most of my life, moved to Nashville and attended MTSU where I met you. And then worked in Nashville for a while, came back to Memphis. I have three children. They
Wow.
are 5, 6, and 7. Yes.
Congratulations.
So they keep me busy. Thank you.
Well,
They keep me busy. Yeah,
so it's one of those situations where, man, your life has changed a lot since you
for
were
sure.
in class. I can't remember the exact year, but you're in my class in somewhere 2007, 2008, something like that, maybe, or
Yep.
so. Well, tell me about what you've been doing wellness wise for women's wellness since you left the class.
So I've had a kind of a rocky journey as far as wellness goes. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer
Ooh.
back in 2017. So I had my
Mhm.
thyroid removed. So since then, I've really been trying to focus on just being overall healthy about as far as what I put into my body and just
Yeah.
trying to move more and be active. So things like that for sure.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty tough diagnosis.
It
Yeah,
is
that would get your attention. My
for
wife
sure.
Jody just a little before Christmas got diagnosed as with endometrial cancer. So she
Oh,
had to have a
wow.
hysterectomy, and so it was scary. Just like I
It
know
is.
you feel that fear, and you feel that want to move on from it if at all possible. But it sounds like it came out really well for you. Have you had to had any further like, do you have to be checked, or did you have any chemo?
So no, I didn't have any chemo or radiation. They just removed my thyroid, and then I go for checkups first it was every 3 months, and now it's moved to every 6 months.
Okay, so how long has that been going on? How long?
Um, I want to say 4 years.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good amount of time. And
It is.
but you look very healthy, and you're really you got a great attitude. And did it change as far as like your eating habits or your exercise habits and that type of thing after you got the diagnosis, after you had the surgery and that type of thing?
Yeah, so I've been just trying to focus on whole and natural foods, less processed things. I'm trying to keep all just that superficial, artificial stuff out of my body.
Yeah, I can second that. Uh, Again, we of course talked about all that back in class. So, but you're so young to have to go through that it's just it seems amazing. But I guess it strikes some younger people and more older people, I guess. But yeah, but you look great, and I'm glad your things are going well for you that way. Um, Looking back on your college career and to where you are now, if you don't mind, can you tell me how old you are now?
I am 36.
Okay, so you're still young, still very young. And by the way, you don't look 36.
Great, thank
I
you.
I would say look more like in your 20s. Um, but what would you say looking back, from what you know now, and this can have to do with they can have to do with anything, but especially along the lines of women's health and wellness, and even sexual wellness, if you want to talk about that. What kind of What kind of advice would you give to the college women that are probably going to mostly be watching this? What would you say to them as far as back then to now? What would you like to know back then that you know now?
I think just my mindset has changed. I think in college, it was more everything was centered around the outward appearance, like how these things would make me look on the outside.
Hmm.
Um, but now it's become more focused on overall health from the inside out and just trying to cut out stress. I think I stressed a lot when I was younger.
Hmm.
So just trying to, I guess, put myself in situations where my mental health as well as my physical health, um, where they do not get disturbed. And as far as I guess sexual wellness, I was abstinent for a long time till I was about 30 years old. Then I had kids, um, and so I'd say that is the to me the best thing you can do, just as far as like physically, emotionally, spiritually, till you meet the person that you're going to be with and marry.
Hmm.
Um, overall, that's the healthiest, I think. I think that's how we were created, for one person, and to save yourself for that person. And I everybody doesn't do that, but for me, that was important.
Right. So you got married then at a certain point. Well, when was that? I'm presuming you did.
So no, so I did not get married. So
Okay.
that's why I would say, from looking back on my life, I should have waited.
Okay.
And so the person, yep. And so the person that I had my kids with, he was in the Marine Corps, and he ended up getting addicted to substances and things like that. So it did not work out. We had to part ways.
Right.
But I would say there's that soul tie there. So you just have to be careful as
Right.
far as that goes.
Right. Well, that's an important story, especially for the college women to hear, because yeah, I think that wisdom that you have is so important as far as saving yourself, like you said, if at all possible, best case scenario for that one person. But going along with, in a relationship like you had, you don't really know the person sometimes until you get far enough along in the relationship that you find out that there's a drug issue or that type of thing, like you were saying. So
Right.
it's a dangerous road to walk. I mean, it's a risky, I guess, road to walk. What's your pathway now as far as that goes? How's your thinking now? So I'm taking it from what you told us, that you are pretty careful as far as going forward, and you're going along that line of saving yourself for the person that hopefully you'll be marrying again soon or at some
Right.
point.
Right. Yeah. So I would, yeah. So I've been abstinent for about 4 years, and just trying to focus on healing and just being whole as a person. And
Hmm.
then I trust that when the time comes, if it comes, that God will bring the person I'm supposed to be with along.
Yeah, well, that's a really great great life lesson, for the younger women, because you've been through some couple tough things. I mean, you've been
Yeah.
through that relationship that, whenever you have a drug situation, it definitely makes it near impossible, to go ahead and become the lifelong partners with them. And then you've also had the cancer strike. So you've had some challenges,
For
probably
sure. For
a
sure.
lot more than you ever thought, as a college woman you'd ever have to face, right?
Yes, yes. I guess in college, I was thinking, you go to school, you meet the person, you get married, and, white picket fences and everything from then on. But I think that as we experience those things, and like I said, my faith is what has kept me to where I'm not in despair. Like, there's still hope there, and life isn't over when you go through tough things. It's just shaping you to be who God has created you to be. And also, when you go through those things, as other people come along, you can help them through as they go through tough things because of what you've been through, and your experience and your wisdom in that.
Right. And you've definitely been, for 36 years old, have definitely been through some fiery situations there. um
Sure.
what else have you learned? I mean, did you learn anything besides that from those experiences? And looking back on them, do you see benefit coming from them, or that were they just pretty much a bad memory to you now? To you now?
No, I think I wouldn't trade them. I wouldn't trade those things. I think we're a lot stronger than we believe ourselves to be. And as we walk through those roads, we realize that, man, like, as things come my way, I would have never thought I would have been able to handle certain things. But God gives you the strength for that. And I would say, too, have people in your life that are close to you that can walk with you and encourage you, and just like a community,
Mm.
they can speak wisdom to you. And just sometimes we can be defensive, but it's very important to, if you know those people have your best interest at heart, to heed their advice.
Right. Yeah, that's real important. I was going to ask you that, if the kind of people that you had in your life, and if when you've gone through both of these trial times, if you had that support, and it sounds like you had it really really strongly.
Yes, I'm the oldest of 8 kids, so I have a large family and my parents. And so, yes, for sure.
Well, that's excellent. That's what I suppose, but I didn't know for sure. It was in the back of my mind. I was thinking to myself, does she have a strong family support system there? Because for those two events that you've had to go through, I mean, those are major. Those would knock a lot of people completely out. Either one of them. So, I mean, it had to be heartbreaking, to find out, with your your belief system, your the way you conduct your life, that this life that you had envisioned with your Marine young man was not gonna happen. So, but
Right. Yes.
you also had the integrity to continue on, caring for your children. And there are some other choices you could have made, that wouldn't be nearly as positive as what you've done. But that goes along with your belief system. And again, the young woman I remember from our class, a lot of integrity. um I deal these days, Nicole, a lot with helping young women to navigate the hookup culture. Now, I don't know for sure how much of that was going on when you were on campus, but would you have any advice? And then, did you see that when you were going to school? And if so, did that affect you back then? If you don't mind me asking, and then,
Um.
go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say, and then, looking back on it now, what would you say as far as advice to young women that are going through this? Because I think it's a lot more pronounced now than it was even back when you were going to school. I may be wrong on that. You may know more about it than I do. But go ahead. What are your thoughts on it?
Um. I think, yeah, it was pretty prevalent then. I think it is more prevalent and more, I guess, outspoken now. But it's easy to get the mindset of, well, everybody's doing this. Everybody's not doing it, but you just have to, I guess, put yourself in situations with people who think like you. And so, I was in the dorms or whatever, and I was an RA. Um, and I actually met a few young ladies who, once I said that, no, I'm going to remain abstinent, that's the plan. They were like, well, I've never had sex either, and I really don't want to, but everybody's doing this. But, so if you can connect with people like that, or if you take a stand, a lot of times it encourages others, it gives them the courage to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's what the research shows as well, is that there's about 30% of college students, and especially college women, that are not taking part in hookup culture at all. And then there's about 15, that's 15%, that are heavily into it, especially guys, and especially like a fraternity guys. So that leaves about 50ish, percent that are just what you just described. They think that everybody else is doing it, so they feel pressure to do it as well. And some of them are participating, I think, not because they want to, but because they feel like they have to be able to be in the cool crowd, or whatever. So yeah, that message you just kind of explained, and related to your experience back then, I think it's very important to encourage young women to do, go ahead and stand up for what you believe, and let others know it too. And probably you'll bring some along with you.
For sure. And also, you have to look at the people who, and I never put anybody down, or, I always want to try to encourage people, but the people who are participating in those activities, are they really happy? Or, like, how is it benefiting them?
Right.
And I think that honestly, they're probably searching for something in that they're not going to find, but it's just they're looking. And so I think that's good to know too.
Yeah, and I think that there's again, the research is showing that about 2/3 of the time that hookups are engaged in, there's definitely alcohol involved with it. So I think that there's quite a bit probably of trying to make yourself feel I don't know, kind of dead in the I don't want to say guilt about it, but just kind of make yourself less inhibited, I guess, so that you would do
Right.
something that you wouldn't normally do. So and
Sure.
anytime you see that, I think you see whenever people are having to drink and really get really, really drunk in order to participate in something, I think it's probably telling us something about the activity. So
Exactly.
yeah. So, what kind of wisdom can you share with these young women, these college women, about being a young mother, that type of thing? Because most of them, I think, are looking forward to becoming a mother and raising kids. Do you have any thoughts on that, as far as college women's knowledge of maybe the upcoming motherhood stage of their life?
So being a mother is the hardest thing I've ever done. Um, but it's also the most rewarding thing. And I think it challenges you in ways that you're not used to, like just having to be selfless and realizing that, okay, my life's not just about me. I have these little people to pour into. But like I said, I would not trade it for the world. And at first, honestly, I didn't want to have children at first. I was like, I've been the oldest of 8 kids for a long time. I'm not interested. Thank you. But then I started having kids and I was like, oh my goodness, I probably could have like 5 or 6 kids. So it's been a blessing. But also it is a big responsibility. And so that's one of the reasons why I think abstaining or waiting till you meet somebody that you want to build a life with, because it's not always an easy road. So you want somebody that you can lean on and support you in that. But also, if you're a single mother, you can do it. You have, it's important to find people that support you. It's hard to do it alone. Like
Yeah.
alone, it's easy to become discouraged. But when you have people in your life that can speak wisdom into you and just encouragement, it's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, it is very fulfilling, isn't it? I mean,
It is.
before you have children, you're kind of on one level, of life,
Right.
and when you have children, you start realizing, oh, there's all these other important things to do. And I don't know. I think with me, it was a maturing process, because I didn't, like I think you said earlier, I didn't. I didn't.
Wow. Thanks.
I saw things differently.
There's one of them.
Speaking of kids, probably.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Not actually, that was perfect timing. So, again, despite what's happened with you, my observation is, again, I remember you as a strong young woman, in class, and a woman of character, and someone who, when you said something, you meant it, you could be dependent on. And so I see all those characteristics still with you, even more so, and you've matured through these things. And again, I think you maybe observed, you maybe stated it earlier, but I think if you wouldn't have had those traits, and if you wouldn't have had a strong family around you, it would have been much more devastating than it was what you've gone through. Would you agree?
For sure. For sure.
So it's probably, I mean, you were that way probably most of your life, because did you say you're the oldest of 8?
Yes.
So you were mothering before you probably
Right.
even got out of the house. But you had probably a lot of maturity at the college level that a lot of college women don't have. So any advice to them, any further along the line of, if they're not, the oldest of 8, what kind of things they could do during college that would maybe make their journey more successful? Like again, I see the hard things you've gone through, but I see that you've successfully navigated them, probably almost without missing a beat. So any other words of advice to college women?
I would say find somebody or seek somebody out who you admire or whose life you admire and you want to be like, and just get time with them. Ask them to spend time with you and to pour into you. I think that is so important. It doesn't have to be, a relative or a parent or, you know, anything like that, but somebody that, okay, you look at them and you say, you know what, I admire them. Um, their life is somebody that, I could see myself, I want to imitate what they're doing.
Mhm.
And I think if you find somebody like that, um, almost like a mentor or somebody to, well, I went through a program called Downline, someone to disciple you. I think that is huge. Just somebody that when you have, maybe you feel like you can't go to your parents with certain things, but you have somebody that you trust and who, their life is going in a direction you'd like to see your life going in. Find somebody like that, or, find like-minded people on campus,
Mhm.
even just so when you have those moments of where, gosh, it could go either way, you can call them and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, or what do you think about this? And you can run things by and you trust their judgment.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, because at that age, from 18 to 22, we have everybody has a tendency to think of, that age group as being adults, so they can take care of
Right.
themselves. But really, there's still a lot of maturing, I think, to do, and a lot of having probably even like an older mentor, it's at least older than 22 maybe, might be the way to go. And like you said, is people with a little more life experience, and maybe more grounded, maybe not part of the social scene, they're at the college, would probably be the best candidates. So
For
yeah, it's,
sure.
well, you've given a ton of good advice, and again, I had no idea that you've gone through these things, and your life has been the way it is. But but like I said, I mean, you don't look like it's phased you a bit. So, um, any plans for the future you'd like to talk about as far as things you have in mind?
Well, so I was in management, but I've taken a job working at a school just so that also, if you're a single parent working in a school or school environment where you can be off when your kids are off or, get those holidays. So I'm doing that for now. But I do have plans to start my own business.
Hmm.
So I think I'm going to launch that this summer. Um, and just to continue to take one day at a time and trust that God will bring things in and out of my life as he sees fit. And like I said, it's just one day at a time.
Well, that's so important, and no matter what stage of life you're at, I think that's so important. But again, the character that I think you show day in and day out really makes a difference. And I know it makes. I'm sure it makes a difference for your kids first of all, and then the rest of your family. I mean, you've got a big family, so it's got to be. Your family has to admire what you're doing and what you've done. So it's all good as far as I can tell. And I'll just hope that and be praying actually that the right young man comes along, and it'd be great to add that husband and father to the mix. And even if it doesn't happen, that's fine. But I think it would be a great addition. And your spiritual life is so impressive. You're so grounded that way, and I think it's so great. And I think that's a great, witness to these college girls as well, that your spiritual life can really top a lot of other, pretty much everything else too, if they could get that right. So,
Yes, that's for me. That is what has held me together. Especially you have some hard days and you have some days where things are going, okay, but that is really the glue. I try to start my day with that, talking to God in the morning, and that's what keeps me together for sure.
me too. It's an honor to have spoken with you, Nicole, and let's stay in closer touch because I'll be interested in the progress of your life.
Thank you for sure so much.
All right, thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.